It was supposed to be the perfect story. The return, the king coming home. August 2021. Old Trafford explodes. Cristiano Ronaldo walks back into the stadium where he became a global superstar. The crowd doesn't cheer. They erupt. He scores twice on his second debut. The cameras zoom in. The familiar celebration, the scream, "Sue!" It feels inevitable. Of course he's back. Of course he's scoring. Of course he's saving Manchester United. Because that's what Cristiano Ronaldo does. He bends reality. He forces destiny. He refuses decline. Except this time, something was different. The goals were still there, but the team wasn't. The press conferences became tense. The body language changed. Teammates stopped running. Managers stopped trusting, and slowly, almost painfully, the narrative shifted. From hero to problem. From savior to symbol of everything broken. Then came the interview. November 2022. Cristiano Ronaldo sat across from Piers Morgan and detonated Manchester United on live television. He said he felt betrayed. He said the club had not evolved. He said he had no respect for the manager. Within days, his contract was terminated. No farewell match, no tribute, no slow goodbye. One of the greatest players in history left Europe not in triumph, but in conflict. And the question echoed across the football world. How does a man who conquered England, Spain, and Italy, who won 5 Ballon d'Ors, who shattered Champions League records, end up walking away like this? This is not just the story of trophies. This is the story of obsession, of relentless self-belief, of a boy who decided he would never be powerless again, and the cost of turning that decision into a life philosophy. Because Cristiano Ronaldo was never just trying to be great. He was trying to prove something. To everyone, and to himself. Because if you strip away the trophies, if you remove the statistics, if you silence the stadiums, there is one question that sits at the center of Cristiano Ronaldo's life. Was he born great? Or did he build himself into something the world had never seen before? This is not a small distinction. Lionel Messi was called a prodigy at 6. Ronaldo was called talented. Messi was protected. Ronaldo was forged. Messi was the chosen one. Ronaldo decided he would become one. That difference shaped everything. Every extra sprint. Every late-night gym session. Every furious reaction to being substituted. Every visible frustration when a teammate didn't press. Cristiano Ronaldo never wanted to be admired. He wanted to dominate. Not because domination felt good, but because it felt necessary. Because deep down, there was a memory that never left him. A small house in Madeira. A father who struggled with alcoholism. A mother who once admitted she considered not bringing him into the world because they had nothing. No money, no security, no guarantee of tomorrow. For Ronaldo, football was never just a game. It was survival. And when survival becomes the foundation of your ambition, success doesn't feel like celebration. It feels like relief. Temporary relief. That's why second place was never acceptable. That's why a hat trick still wasn't enough if the team lost. That's why interviews always sounded slightly defensive, even after victory. He wasn't chasing applause. He was chasing proof. Proof that he was worth the sacrifice. Proof that he had outrun the life he came from. Proof that nobody would ever look at him and say, "You're not enough." And that's the core of Cristiano Ronaldo's story. Not talent, not rivalry, not trophies, but the psychological engine that drove him. Because when you spend your entire life trying to prove something, you don't just chase greatness. You attack it. And sometimes, you don't know how to stop. Because stopping, for Cristiano Ronaldo, once meant going back. Back to Madeira. Back to uncertainty. Back to being the skinny kid whose boots were held together with hope. Funchal Madeira. 1990s. Not Lisbon. Not Madrid. Not Manchester. A small island in the Atlantic Ocean. Tourists saw beaches. Cristiano saw limitations. His father, Jose Diniz Aveiro, worked as a kitman at a local club. His mother, Maria Dolores, cleaned houses. Money was tight, very tight. There were nights when electricity was uncertain. Meals were simple. Dreams were expensive. And inside that house, Ronaldo absorbed something powerful. Fear. Not the fear of defenders, the fear of becoming ordinary. At 12 years old, he left Madeira alone to join Sporting CP's academy in Lisbon. 12. New city, no family, different accent. Other boys mocked the way he spoke. They called him Island Boy. He cried at night. He thought about going home. But he stayed, because even then, quitting felt more terrifying than loneliness. There's a story from those academy years. A youth coach once told him he needed to pass more. Ronaldo didn't argue. He trained after everyone left, dribbling, shooting, again. The obsession started early. He wasn't the most technically gifted. He wasn't the most tactically aware. But he ran harder, jumped higher, shot longer. And most importantly, he believed something the others didn't. He believed he could design himself. At 15, doctors discovered he had a racing heart condition. Tachycardia. His heart was beating too fast, even at rest. Surgery was required. One wrong move. One complication. Career over before it began. The procedure was successful. Days later, he was back training. Most teenagers would have been cautious. Ronaldo interpreted survival as permission. Permission to go even harder. Because if life could disappear that quickly, why waste a single second? And then there was his father. Jose struggled with alcohol. He loved his son. But he was fading. Cristiano saw it, felt it, the instability, the fragility, the reality that greatness might be his only way to protect his family. In 2003, when Manchester United signed him, he was 18, raw, skinny, talented, but not yet unstoppable. Sir Alex Ferguson saw potential. But potential wasn't what Ronaldo wanted. He wanted certainty. So he lifted weights when others slept, practiced free kicks alone, turned his body into a weapon, turned criticism into fuel. And when his father died in 2005, Cristiano was 20 years old. He never saw him become the finished product. Never saw the Ballon d'Ors. Never saw the Champions Leagues. Never saw the statue in Madeira. That loss hardened something inside him. From that moment forward, it wasn't just ambition, it was urgency. Win now. Score now. Prove now. Because tomorrow was not guaranteed. That's the emotional origin of Cristiano Ronaldo. Not arrogance, not ego, but a boy who understood too early that life can disappear and decided he would never be powerless again. But here's the paradox. When you build your entire identity on never being powerless, every moment of vulnerability feels like defeat. And that would shape everything that came next. When Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at Manchester United in 2003, he wasn't a phenomenon. He was a show-off. Step-overs, flashy flicks, too many touches, too little end product. English defenders didn't admire him. They targeted him. The Premier League was not Portugal. It was cold, it was physical, it was unforgiving. And Ronaldo got kicked. Hard. Over and over. There's a moment in 2004 against Middlesbrough. He loses the ball trying to beat a defender. The crowd groans. Sir Alex Ferguson shakes his head. That shake meant something. Not anger. Expectation. Ronaldo didn't want applause. He wanted approval. So he changed. Not overnight, but methodically. He studied defenders. Trained his body relentlessly. Built muscle. Improved balance. Practiced free kicks until they became a science. And slowly, the boy became a weapon. By 2006, something shifted. The pace was still there. The tricks were still there. But now there was ruthlessness. He wasn't dribbling to entertain. He was dribbling to kill games. 2007-08 season. 31 Premier League goals. 42 in all competitions. Manchester United won the league. Then the Champions League. Moscow. Rain pouring. Final against Chelsea. Ronaldo scores a header. Rises above everyone. Suspended in the air like gravity forgot him. Later, in the penalty shootout, he misses. For a moment, vulnerability. For a moment, silence. He stands at midfield, hands on his hips, watching. Waiting. If Chelsea score their final penalty, he becomes the villain. John Terry slips, misses, United win. Ronaldo falls to his knees, crying, not because of the trophy, because he escaped failure, because destiny blinked. That season, he wins his first Ballon d'Or. And something dangerous happens. He tastes global supremacy, and it feels right. But here's the thing about Ronaldo. Winning once doesn't satisfy him. It convinces him he can win everywhere. In 2009, he leaves for Real Madrid. World record transfer. 94 million euros. Pressure doesn't scare him. It excites him. Because now he's not just chasing greatness. He's chasing immortality. Madrid wasn't just a club. It was the arena. And waiting inside that arena was the rivalry that would define his life. Lionel Messi. The natural genius. The prodigy. The one who didn't need to shout. Didn't need to flex. Didn't need to prove. Everything Ronaldo believed he had to fight for, Messi seemed to receive. And that burned. From 2009 to 2018, the rivalry becomes warfare. Goals exchanged like punches. Clásicos that felt like finals. Ballon d'Or ceremonies where one smiled and the other swallowed pride. Ronaldo transforms again, from winger to pure striker. He sacrifices flair for efficiency. Less dribbling, more killing. Champions League nights become his kingdom. 4 titles with Real Madrid. The bicycle kick against Juventus. The hat-tricks, the comebacks, the cold stare after every goal. He isn't celebrating anymore. He's declaring. And yet, for every triumph, there was always something chasing him. Another Messi goal. Another Ballon d'Or debate. Another argument. Who is greater? Who is better? Who is the best in history? And Ronaldo didn't just compete with Messi. He competed with time, with age, with gravity, with decline. Because for a man who sees vulnerability as defeat, aging is the ultimate enemy. And deep down, he knew one day, the body would whisper what he never wanted to hear. Slow down. But Cristiano Ronaldo had never listened to whispers. He only responded to war. And the biggest war was still coming. It didn't arrive with defenders. It didn't arrive with rival fans. It arrived quietly. In the mirror. 2018. Cristiano Ronaldo leaves Real Madrid after winning his 4th Champions League there. 4. He had conquered Spain. Conquered Europe, outscored everyone, outlasted everyone. He could have stayed, became a statue. Instead, he left. Why? Because comfort is the enemy of obsession. He joined Juventus. New country, new language, new league. 33. Most players at 33 start protecting their legacy. Ronaldo attacked a new one. He won Serie A, scored relentlessly, adapted again. Less sprinting, smarter movement, more predatory, but something was missing. The Champions League. Every season ended the same way. Quarterfinal. Round of 16. Elimination. The obsession grew louder. He had left Madrid to prove he didn't need them. But Madrid kept winning in Europe after him. And for the first time in years, he wasn't at the center of it. Then came 2021. The return to Manchester United. Romantic. Poetic. Nostalgic. But football doesn't care about poetry. The Premier League had evolved. Pressing systems. Young squads. Relentless pace. Ronaldo was 36. He still scored 18 league goals, carried United in the Champions League group stage. Late winners, last-minute heroics. But the team didn't function around him. And here's where the war truly began. Because Ronaldo doesn't measure himself by good for his age. He measures himself by dominance. If he can't dominate, he feels exposed. New manager, Erik ten Hag, different philosophy, pressing from the front. Collective intensity. Ronaldo struggled, not physically, psychologically, being substituted, benched, questioned. The whispers grew. Is he finished? Is he holding the team back? Is the legend fading? For a man who built his life on control, this was chaos. He walked down the tunnel before a match finished, refused to come on as a substitute. Frustration became visible. And when visibility becomes vulnerability, Ronaldo fights back. The interview. The explosion. Public criticism of the club, of the manager, of the culture. Within days, contract terminated. No farewell, no ceremony, just headlines and silence. At 37 years old, Cristiano Ronaldo was unemployed in Europe. The man who had ruled it. And in that moment, the war wasn't against Messi, or Madrid, or critics. It was against time, against relevance, against decline. Then came the most controversial decision of his career. He signed with Al Nassr, Saudi Arabia. Not Champions League, not Premier League, not the highest stage. For many, it felt like surrender. For Ronaldo, it was repositioning. He reframed it. New challenge, new league, new frontier. But deep down he knew the European chapter was closed. And for someone who never learned how to stop, closure feels like loss. But football had one more battlefield left. One more arena where legacy is eternal. The World Cup. And this time, it wouldn't go the way he scripted. Qatar, 2022. Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at his 5th World Cup knowing this was the last one. 37 years old. 5 Ballon d'Ors. 5 Champions League titles. Over 800 career goals. But none of it could silence the one argument that had followed him his entire life. No World Cup. Lionel Messi was still alive in the tournament. Still scoring. Still carrying Argentina. The rivalry that had defined a generation was entering its final chapter on the biggest stage possible. Portugal started well. Ronaldo scored a penalty against Ghana, became the first man in history to score in 5 different World Cups. Another record, another headline, another statement. But beneath the surface, something was shifting. His movement wasn't as sharp. The sprints were shorter, the press less aggressive. Against South Korea, he was substituted early. He didn't hide his frustration. The cameras caught the reaction. A shake of the head, a muttered word. In the round of 16 against Switzerland, the decision came. Fernando Santos made the call. Cristiano Ronaldo would start on the bench. On the bench. For a World Cup knockout match. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, the tournament didn't revolve around him. Portugal won 6-1. Gonçalo Ramos scored a hat-trick. Young, fast, hungry. The narrative turned brutal. Portugal looked better without Ronaldo. He was no longer the system. He was the variable. Quarterfinal. Morocco. History on the line. Ronaldo entered in the second half. He pushed. He pressed. He tried to bend the script one more time. But Morocco scored. 1-0. Portugal eliminated. And for the first time in his career, Cristiano Ronaldo walked off a football pitch at a World Cup in tears. Not angry tears. Not frustrated tears. Broken tears. Because this wasn't about tactics. This wasn't about a manager. This wasn't about a club. This was finality. The realization that some wars cannot be won by force. Some battles cannot be out-trained, outscored, out-disciplined. Time had done what defenders couldn't. It had slowed him. And slowing down, for Cristiano Ronaldo, felt like losing control. After the match, there was no dramatic speech, no explosive interview, just silence. And then, the decision. Europe signed with Al Nassr. The move was framed as ambition, as expansion, as global vision. But everyone understood the subtext. The Champions League nights were over. The Clásicos were over. The Messi rivalry, at the elite level, was over. He wasn't surrendering. He was redefining the battlefield. Because Ronaldo doesn't stop, he recalibrates. And that's the psychological turning point of his story. For the first time, he wasn't chasing Messi. He wasn't chasing Europe. He wasn't chasing validation from critics. He was chasing something quieter. Longevity. Legacy beyond geography. The first to 900 goals. The first to 1,000. The athlete who refused expiration. But here's the irony. When you spend your entire life fighting decline, you never learn how to embrace evolution. And evolution was coming. Whether he liked it or not. Saudi Arabia wasn't Europe. There were no Tuesday nights at the Bernabeu. No Anfield lights. No Camp Nou roar. But there were still stadiums full of people chanting his name. There were still children wearing number 7 shirts. There were still cameras following every movement. And there was still one thing Cristiano Ronaldo had never surrendered: hunger. In 2023 and 2024, while the football world debated his relevance, he kept scoring, relentlessly. Not jog-in goals, not ceremonial goals. Goals that required movement, timing, instinct. Goals that reminded everyone that obsession doesn't retire. He crossed 850 career goals, then 880, then 900. Each milestone wasn't just a statistic. It was a message. You can change my league. You can change my continent. You cannot change my identity. And something unexpected happened. The anger softened. The press conferences became calmer. The celebrations slightly less defiant. He still shouted, "Shoo!" but there was less aggression in it. More ritual, more tradition, more legacy. In Portugal's Euro 2024 campaign, he didn't dominate like he once did. He wasn't sprinting past defenders at 23. But he led. He directed. He accepted substitution without visible rebellion. And when younger players scored, he celebrated with them instead of staring at the scoreboard. For a man who once equated vulnerability with defeat, this was growth. Not physical growth. Psychological growth. Cristiano Ronaldo was no longer trying to outrun time. He was racing alongside it. And here's the cinematic irony of his career. He spent years trying to prove he was better than Lionel Messi. Years trying to silence critics. Years trying to dominate every conversation. But in the end, his greatest achievement wasn't statistical. It was durability. He played at the top level across 4 decades. He won leagues in England, Spain, and Italy. He became the all-time leading scorer in Champions League history. He became Portugal's greatest player. And most importantly, he transformed himself more than once. From flashy winger to elite goal machine to tactical striker to global icon to elder statesman, most players peak. Cristiano Ronaldo evolved. And that evolution is the real payoff. Because the boy from Madeira who feared being ordinary never was. Not at 18, not at 28, not at 38. The world will debate whether he was the greatest forever. But what cannot be debated is this. No one squeezed more from themselves. No one attacked their own limitations more violently. No one treated football like a battlefield more consistently. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't just win trophies. He conquered versions of himself. And in doing so, he became something very rare in sport. Not just a champion, a force. But every force eventually slows, and when it does, what remains is legacy. Which brings us back to the beginning. Back to that small house in Madeira. Back to the boy who hated losing street games. Back to the teenager crying alone in Lisbon. Back to the young man crying in Moscow rain after a missed penalty. Back to the father crying at Anfield. Back to the captain crying in Qatar. Cristiano Ronaldo's story was never about being liked. It was about being undeniable. For 2 decades, he built a myth with his own hands. He sculpted his body into armor, turned criticism into fuel, turned rivalry into obsession, turned doubt into drive. He didn't wait for destiny. He engineered it. He made himself faster, stronger, sharper, colder. When others relied on talent, he relied on repetition. When others peaked, he adjusted. When others faded, he reinvented, and yes, he shouted, he posed, he demanded. But behind every flex was a boy who once felt small. Behind every celebration was someone who never wanted to feel powerless again. That is why he never stopped. Not at 30, not at 35, not at 38. Because stopping meant confronting silence. And silence meant hearing the fear again. But here's the truth that only time reveals. Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't need to fight anymore. He already proved it. The goals, the trophies, the Ballon d'Ors, the Champions League nights, the rivalries. They are no longer arguments. They are chapters. And whether you believe he was the greatest or not, you cannot deny this. He changed what we think is possible. He stretched the limits of discipline, redefined longevity, forced the sport to evolve around him. And somewhere, on an island in the Atlantic Ocean, there is still a statue of a boy who refused to be ordinary. The myth may slow, the body may age, the stadiums may grow quieter, but the standard he set, that will echo long after the chants fade. Cristiano Ronaldo was never just chasing greatness. He was chasing certainty, and in doing so, he became unforgettable.